On the scorched moon of Virelli 7, the sky burned red even at night. Dust storms howled across the broken plains where nothing green had grown in 100 years. In the middle of this wasteland, a small figure moved slowly over the ruins of a crashed colony ship. His name was Kale. He was 10 years old but looked younger because of how thin he was. His skin was pale with faint glowing lines that pulsed softly like distant stars. His eyes were silver and wide with fear and hunger. Kale had been alone for weeks. The ship had carried 200 people. Now only he remained. He did not know why the soldiers came or why they killed everyone. He only remembered hiding in a storage locker while screams echoed through the metal halls. When he finally crawled out, everything was silent and cold. Since then, he had survived by drinking condensation from broken pipes and eating dried ration packs he found under twisted metal. One day, while searching for water, he saw something strange. Far to the east, where the land cracked open into deep canyons, the air shimmered like heat over desert sand. But it was not heat. It was something else. Drawn by a feeling he could not explain, Kale walked toward it. His feet ached and his stomach growled, but he kept going. As he neared the canyon edge, the air grew still. The red sky faded to soft violet, and below him in a hidden valley green things grew. Trees with silver leaves swayed without wind. Flowers glowed in soft blues and purples. A small stream cut through smooth stones, and the air smelled clean like rain after fire. Kale stood frozen. He had never seen anything so beautiful. Then a voice spoke behind him. "You should not be here, child." He spun around, heart pounding. A woman stood there, tall and slender, with long black hair that seemed to drink the light. Her eyes were deep and strange, like shattered glass filled with stars. She wore simple clothes made of woven moss and leather, but moved like someone who knew secrets older than time. At her side crouched a creature no bigger than a large dog, but covered in shimmering scales that shifted from gold to violet. It had wings folded tight against its back and eyes that watched Kale with sharp intelligence. Kale stumbled back, ready to run, but his legs gave out. He fell to his knees, gasping. The woman did not move closer. She only studied him. The creature let out a low rumble, but it did not sound angry, more curious. "You are not from this system," the woman said. "Your blood sings a song I have not heard in centuries." Kale could not speak. His throat was dry and his mind raced. Who was she? What was that creature? Was he dreaming? The woman stepped forward slowly. Her bare feet made no sound on the stone. She knelt before him and held out a hand, not to touch him but to show him something. In her palm, a small blue flower bloomed from nothing. It glowed gently and released a sweet scent that made Kale feel calm for the first time in weeks. "My name is Lena," she said. "This is Ember. He is my friend. You are safe here if you mean no harm." Kale looked from her to the dragon, then back. He wanted to believe her. But trust had died with the others on the ship. Still, his body betrayed him. Tears welled in his eyes and his stomach growled loud enough to echo. Lena smiled just a little. She stood and turned. "Come, you are hungry, and you need rest." She walked toward a small hut built into the side of a mossy hill. Ember stayed beside Kale for a moment, then nudged his shoulder gently with his snout. Surprised, Kale reached out and touched the dragon's head. The scales were warm and smooth like sunlit stone. Ember made a soft purring sound and led him forward. Inside the hut, it was warm and dry. Shelves held jars of herbs and strange glowing crystals. A fire burned in a stone pit. Though Kale saw no wood or smoke, Lena gave him a bowl of clear broth and soft bread. He ate quickly, almost choking in his eagerness. She watched him quietly sipping her own drink. "Where are your people?" she asked. "Dead," he whispered. "All of them. And you?" "I hid." She nodded as if she understood more than he said. "You have the mark of the Starborn. That is why they came for you." Kale did not know what that meant, but he felt the lines on his skin pulse again as if answering her words. "You can stay," Lena said. "For now. This place is hidden. Few know it exists. Ember will guard you while you sleep." That night, Kale lay on a soft mat wrapped in a blanket that smelled like herbs and earth. Ember curled beside him, a gentle warmth against the cold. Outside, the wind howled, but here in the valley it was quiet. For the first time since the ship fell, Kale felt something close to peace. But as he drifted off, he dreamed of a woman singing. Her voice was soft and sad, and in the dream she looked just like him. Lena stood at the doorway watching him sleep. Her face was unreadable. She touched the locket at her neck, a small silver thing shaped like a crescent moon. Inside was a faded image of a child with silver eyes. She closed her eyes and whispered a name no one had spoken in. "Here's Alara." Then she turned and walked into the night, leaving Ember to watch over the boy who did not know he was being followed by the one person he thought was gone forever. The woman stood in the cave light, trembling as if she might vanish with the next breath. Kale wanted to run to her, but his feet would not move. Too much had happened too fast. Ember growled low in his throat but did not attack. Lena kept her blade-raised eyes sharp as glass. "Prove it," Lena said. "Prove you are who you say." Alara reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver locket. It was shaped like a crescent moon. She opened it slowly. Inside was a tiny picture of a baby with silver eyes and a woman holding him. The woman was Alara, younger but the same. Kale's breath caught. He had seen that locket in his dreams. "He used to cry when I left the room," Alara said, voice soft. "Only my song would calm him." "Do you remember Kale? The one about the twin stars?" Kale swallowed hard. "Yes, you sang it every night." Tears ran down Alara's face. She took one step forward, then stopped. "I watched them burn the ship. I hid in the cargo hold with the dead. I waited until they left. Then I ran. I have been hunting their trail ever since. I knew they would come for him again." Lena finally lowered her blade, but her eyes stayed hard. "Why now? Why show yourself? Because they are not just after him anymore," she said. "They are coming for all of us. The ones who remember, the ones who resist, and they have new weapons, things that eat light and silence." Suddenly the lake behind them bubbled. Black shapes rose from the water, long and thin with too many eyes. They were not alive, not really. Machines shaped like eels made of shadow and wire. The enemy had found them. "Run," Lena shouted. Ember roared and blasted fire at the creatures, but the flames passed through them like smoke. Alara grabbed Kale's hand. "This way," she said, pulling him toward a narrow crack in the wall. Lena followed close behind, blade flashing as she cut at the shadows. They ran through twisting tunnels, the air growing colder with every turn. Kale's heart pounded and his legs burned, but he did not let go of his mother's hand. For the first time in years, he felt something like hope. They reached a dead end, a smooth wall of stone with no exit. Alara pressed her palm against it and whispered words Kyle did not understand. The wall shimmered and opened into a hidden chamber filled with old machines and flickering screens. "We are safe for now," she said. "This place is shielded." Kale looked around. The room was full of maps and data pads. One screen showed a fleet of black ships moving toward the outer rim. Another showed a symbol he recognized from the carvings in the first cave. "Who are they?" he asked. "The Silence Order," Alara said. "They believe pure bloodlines must be protected. They see mixed children like you as mistakes, errors to be erased." "But why keep you alive?" Lena asked. "Why not just kill you both?" "Because I was useful," Alara said. "I worked for them once. I helped decode ancient texts. They did not know I was hiding my pregnancy. When they found out, they wanted to take Kale for study. I refused, so I disappeared." Kale looked at his mother. "You left me to save me." "Yes," she said, "and I would do it again." Ember curled around Kale protectively. Lena sat on a crate, arms crossed. She studied Alara like a puzzle she could not solve. "You could have sent a message. You could have warned me," "I tried," Alara said. "But their spies are everywhere, even among the free colonies. I did not know who to trust. Until I saw the reports. A boy with starborn marks found in the wastes, guarded by an elf and a dragon. I knew it was him." Kale touched the silver lines on his arm. They glowed faintly. "Am I dangerous?" "No," Alara said quickly. "You are a bridge between old and new, human and elder. That is why they fear you, and why we must protect you." Len's eyes softened a little. She looked at Kale, then back at Alara. "You love him, with all that I am." "Then we fight together," Lena said. "But we need help. The Silence Order has ships that bend space. We cannot face them alone." Alara nodded. "There is a group. Humans mostly. They call themselves the Terran Concord. They have fought the Order before. They lost many, but they did not break." Kale remembered stories from the colony ship. Humans were wild, unpredictable, but they were also brave. They built cities on dead worlds and flew into storms just to see what was on the other side. "Can we reach them?" Kale asked. Alara pulled out a small device. It hummed softly. "I have a beacon, but it will take days to get a reply, and the Order is close." "Then we wait," Lena said, "and we prepare." For the next 2 days they worked in silence. Lena sharpened her blades and wove protective charms from cave moss. Ember practiced new fire forms, his scales shifting to match the shadows. Alara taught Kale how to control his healing touch so it would not flare when he was scared. She showed him how to focus his mind like a lens. On the third night, the beacon lit up. A voice crackled through the speaker, rough but kind. "This is Captain Mira of the Skyward. Who calls? Alara answered. This is Alara Voss. I have something they want. And someone they fear. There was a pause. Then the voice said, Hold tight. We are coming. Cale looked at his mother, then at Lena. For the first time he felt like he had a plan. Not just survival, but purpose. But as they packed to leave the cave, the ground shook. Alarms blared from Alara's machines. On the screen, a new ship appeared. Larger than the others. Shaped like a claw. And at its center, a signal pulsed with a familiar rhythm. It is her, Lena whispered. The commander. Alara went pale. No, not her. Who? Cale asked. My old mentor, Alara said. The one who taught me everything. And the one who ordered the burning of your ship. Cale's blood ran cold. She is coming for me. Yes, Alara said. And this time I will not hide. Ember stood tall, wings flared. Lena gripped her blade. And Cale took a deep breath. He was no longer just a boy in the ruins. He was Cale Starborn, son of Alara, friend of Ember. And he would not run again. Weeks passed in the hidden valley and Cale began to heal. His ribs no longer showed so sharp beneath his skin, and the silver lines on his arms glowed brighter when he laughed. He learned to gather herbs with Lena and feed Ember bits of dried fruit that made the dragon sneeze sparks. The dragon had grown fond of him and often let Cale ride on his back during short flights over the canyon. From high above, the world looked less broken. But strange things started happening. One day, while helping Lena mend a torn cloak, Cale pricked his finger on a needle. A drop of blood fell onto the fabric. Before Lena could wipe it away, the tear sealed itself and the blood vanished. Another time, Ember got a deep cut on his wing from a sharp rock. Cale touched the wound without thinking, and it closed in seconds, leaving only smooth scales behind. Lena watched these moments with quiet worry. She said little, but her eyes grew heavier each day. She spent more time at the edge of the valley, staring at the sky through a small crystal lens that showed distant stars. Cale noticed but did not ask. He sensed her fear like a shadow just out of sight. One evening, as they ate by the fire, Lena finally spoke. You are not just healing, Cale. You are changing things. That is a gift from the old blood. But gifts like this draw attention. Cale looked down at his hands. I did not ask for this. No one ever does, she said softly. But now that you have it, you must learn to hide it, or they will come. Who are they? He asked. The ones who burn worlds to keep secrets? That night, Cale could not sleep. He sat by the stream listening to the water and watching the stars. Ember lay beside him, head resting on his lap. Suddenly, the dragon lifted his head, ears twitching. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Far away beyond the canyon, a light blinked out. Then another. Like stars winking shut. Cale ran to Lena's hut. She was already awake, standing by her window. Her face tight with alarm. The sensor boys, she whispered. They are going dark. By dawn, the sky was wrong. The red haze that always hung over Varelli 7 had turned gray and thick. The air tasted metallic. Lena packed supplies quickly, her movements sharp and fast. Ember paced nervously, scales flickering between gold and deep blue. They know you are here, she told Cale. We must move. But where can we go? He asked. To the root caves, deep under the mountain. Even their machines cannot see there. They left just as the first drone appeared on the horizon, a small black dot moving fast and silent. Ember carried Cale on his back while Lena ran ahead, her feet barely touching the ground. The drone hovered over the valley, scanning with red beams. When it found the empty hut, it sent a signal. More dots appeared in the sky. In the caves, it was cold and damp. Roots hung from the ceiling like old fingers, and the walls pulsed with faint light from glowing moss. Lena placed her hand on a stone and spoke words that sounded like wind through trees. A hidden door opened, revealing a chamber lined with ancient carvings. Stay here, she said. Do not make a sound. She left with Ember to set traps at the entrance. Kyle sat alone in the dark, tracing the carvings with his fingers. They showed tall beings with silver eyes standing beside dragons under twin suns. One figure held a child. The child looked like him. Hours passed. Then a distant explosion shook the cave. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cale covered his ears. More blasts followed closer each time. He wanted to run, but remembered Lena's warning. He stayed still and quiet. Finally, Ember returned alone. The dragon's left wing was torn and smoke rose from a burn on his side. He limped to Cale and nudged him toward a narrow tunnel. Cale understood. They had to go deeper. They crawled for what felt like forever until they reached a wide underground lake. The water was black and still. On the far shore, a soft blue light glowed. As they crossed the lake on a raft of woven reeds, Cale saw shapes moving under the water, long and slow. like sleeping giants. On the other side, Lena waited. Her clothes were torn and her face smudged with soot. But she was alive. She hugged Kale tightly, then checked Ember's wounds. With a wave of her hand, green light flowed from her fingers and the dragon's burns began to fade. "They found us," she said, "but not for long. I sent false trails into the outer rings. They will chase ghosts for days." That night, as they rested in a new chamber, Kale asked the question that had been burning in his chest. "Why do they want me?" "Because you are proof," Lena said. "Proof that the Starborn did not all die, and proof that humans and elders can create something new, something they fear." Kale thought about his parents. His father had been human. His mother. He could not remember her face, only her voice, soft and warm like summer rain. "Do you think she is still out there?" he asked. Lena looked away. "I do not know. But if she were, she would move heaven and earth to keep you safe." Suddenly, Ember raised his head and hissed. The water in the lake rippled, though no wind blew. Lena stood quickly, drawing a slender blade that glowed faintly white. "Someone is here," she whispered. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Not a soldier. Not a machine. A woman wrapped in a tattered cloak, her face hidden. She held up her hands empty. "I mean no harm," she said. Her voice was tired but strong. "I only want to see him." Kale froze.
That voice.
It was the one from his dreams. Lena moved between them, blade ready. "Who are you?" The woman lowered her hood. Her eyes were silver, just like Kale's. Her face was lined with grief and hope. She looked at Kale, and tears filled her eyes. "My name is Alara," she said, "and this is my son." Kale's breath caught. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might break. He took a step forward, then stopped. Was this real? Was she real? Lena did not lower her blade. "How do I know you are not one of them?" "Because I have been running from them longer than you have been hiding him," Alara said. "I watched the ship burn. I let them think I was dead so they would not look for him, and now I have found him." Kale looked at his mother, then at Lena, then at Ember, who watched silently. In that moment, he felt something shift inside him like a door opening. He did not know what came next. But he knew one thing: he was not alone anymore. Life on the Skyward was loud and messy but full of warmth. Kale had his own bunk now near the engine room where the hum of the ship felt like a lullaby. Ember slept coiled around the door, his scales shifting to match the metal walls. Lena taught him old songs in the Elvish tongue, while Mira showed him how to fix broken circuits with gum and wire. Alara spent her days studying star charts and decoding enemy signals, but always made time for dinner with her son. The Terran Concord was not an army. It was a network of rebels, farmers, pilots, and dreamers who refused to let the Silence Order erase the strange and the new. They welcomed Kyle not as a weapon but as a symbol. Hope had a face now, and it was a boy with silver eyes. Weeks turned into months. They traveled from colony to hidden outpost, gathering others like Kale, a girl who could speak to machines, a boy whose tears grew flowers in dead soil. Each child carried a piece of the future the Order feared, and with every rescue, Kyle grew stronger, not just in power but in heart. One evening, as the ship drifted near the nebula of Veils, Alara called a meeting. She held up a new data crystal found in a wrecked scout ship. "This changes everything," she said. On the screen, a massive structure appeared deep in the void. It looked like a black sun ringed with spikes. Ancient. Alive. "The Nexus Core," Lena whispered. "I thought it was a myth. It is real," Alara said. "And it is waking up. The Order is not just hunting hybrids. They are feeding them to it. The core consumes mixed blood to grow, and when it fully awakens, it will drain every living mind in the galaxy." Silence filled the room. Even Ember lowered his head. "Then we stop it," Kale said. "How?" Myra asked. "That thing is older than stars." Kale looked at his friends, at his mother, at the dragon who had never left his side. "We do not fight it with fire or steel. We show it what it cannot understand. Family." Len's eyes lit up. The core feeds on fear and separation, but connection. Love. Those are things it has never known. "So we go in together," Kale said. "All of us." The plan was simple but dangerous. The Skyward would draw the Order's fleet away while a small team entered the core through an old maintenance shaft hidden in the rings. Kale would lead them. His blood was the key. The day of the mission dawned cold and quiet. Kale wore a simple suit lined with Lena's charms. Ember stayed close, his wings folded tight. Alara hugged him long and hard. "I am proud of you," she whispered. "I am not afraid." Kale said, "Because I am not alone." They launched in a tiny pod painted black. Inside were Kale, Lena, Ember, and 2 rescued children, the girl who spoke to machines and the boy who grew flowers. As they neared the core, the air grew heavy. Thoughts turned to shadows. Fear crept in, but Kale held their hands. He sang the Twin Star song his mother taught him. Ember purred. The girl whispered to the walls, and they opened. The boy shed a tear, and a small blue flower bloomed on the metal floor. Light returned. Deep inside the core, they found a chamber of swirling darkness. At its center floated a heart of black crystal pulsing with stolen voices. "This is where they bring them," Kale said. "The lost ones." He stepped forward. The darkness reached for him. But instead of fighting, he opened his arms. "I am here. You do not have to be alone." The core hesitated. It had only known hunger, never kindness. Kale let his silver lines glow bright. Ember roared not in anger but in song. The children joined hands and shared their gifts. Light filled the chamber, the core cracked. Not from force but from wonder. It had tasted something new. Something it could not consume. Connection. Outside, the Skyward fought hard. Mira dodged fire and launched decoys. Alara commanded from the bridge, her voice steady. Then the core flashed white. The Order's ships froze. Their systems went dark. The threat was over. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. Without the core, the Silence Order fell apart. Survivors came forward. Hidden families emerged from the shadows. The Terran Concord grew into something new, not just a rebellion but a home. Kale stood on the observation deck of the Skyward, watching stars drift by. Ember lay at his feet, now the size of a small shuttle, his scales shimmering with stardust. Lena joined him, holding 2 cups of warm tea. "You did it," she said. "No," he said. "We did it." Alara appeared behind them. A message came from the outer rim. A new child. Silver eyes. Singing in her sleep, Kale smiled. "Then we go get her." And as the ship turned toward the next star, he knew the war was not over. But neither was hope. He had been an orphan once. Now he was a brother, a son, a friend. And that was enough to light the dark. The sky over the shattered ring burned with dying stars. Broken ships and frozen asteroids floated in silent graves. This was where the Terran Concord would meet them. Alara guided their small shuttle through the debris, her hands steady on the controls. Kale sat beside her, eyes wide at the sight. Ember lay curled at their feet, scales dimmed to blend with the shadows. Lena stood at the rear window, watching for pursuers. They did not have to wait long. On the edge of the ring, black ships appeared. Sleek and silent, they moved like sharks through water. At their center floated the claw-shaped command vessel, its hull pulsing with dark energy. "They found us," Lena said. "They knew we would come here," Alara replied. "This is a trap, but it is also our only chance." A voice crackled over the comm. "This is Captain Mira. Hold position. We see you." A human ship dropped from above, hidden behind a dead moon. It was old and patched with mismatched metal, but its engines glowed bright blue. Gun turrets swiveled toward the enemy. Mira's voice was calm. "Get ready for a fight." Kale's heart pounded. He had never been in a battle before. Only running. Only hiding. But now he had people to protect. He looked at his mother, then at Lena, then at Ember, who gave a soft rumble of support. The Silence Order ships opened fire first. Beams of black light shot through space, aimed at the human vessel. But Mira was fast. She rolled the ship and returned fire with plasma rounds that exploded in bursts of white heat. Lena activated the shuttle's cloaking field, and they darted behind an asteroid. "We need to draw them away from Mira," Alara said. "They want Kale, not her." "No," Kale said. "They want me, but they do not know what I can do." "Let me try." Alara hesitated. "You are not ready. I have to be." Lena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then do not fight their way. Fight yours," Kale nodded. He closed his eyes and reached for the silver lines on his skin. They glowed brighter than ever. Ember stood and pressed his forehead to Kyle's. A bond formed between them, old and deep. Energy flowed from the dragon into the boy and out again in waves. The shuttle shot forward, not hiding but shining. Light poured from its hull like a star being born. The enemy ships turned toward it, confused. Kale opened his eyes and spoke one word. "Stop." A pulse of pure force erupted from the shuttle. It did not destroy. It unraveled. The black beams bent and faded. The enemy shields flickered and died. For a moment, the Silence Order ships floated helpless. Mira did not waste time. Her guns roared. 2 enemy ships exploded in silent fire. The rest scattered. But the command vessel held its place. A hatch opened and a figure stepped out onto the hull. She wore silver armor that shifted like liquid. Her face was hidden behind a smooth mask, but her presence filled the void like a storm. Alara gasped. It is her. Commander Vera. Kale felt a chill. This was the woman who killed his people, who made his mother run, who hunted him across stars. Vera raised a hand. The space around her warped. Debris flew toward the shuttle like spears. Ember roared and unleashed a stream of cosmic fire. It hit Vera's shield and shattered into harmless light. We cannot win with force, Lena said. She is too strong. Then we use truth, Kale said. He opened a comm channel. His voice was small but clear. I know why you are afraid. Vera turned toward the shuttle. For the first time, she spoke. Her voice was cold and sharp. You are an error. A mistake of blood and time. No, Kyle said. I am what comes next. You cannot kill the future. Something in his words made Vera pause. Her mask flickered. For a split second, Kale saw her eyes, and in them he saw doubt. That moment was all Mira needed. Her ship fired a special round not meant to explode but to disrupt. It hit the command vessel's core and sent a shock through its systems. Lights died. Engines sputtered. Vera vanished back inside. The remaining ships retreated into the dark. Silence fell over the ring. Then Mira's voice came again. Everyone okay? Alara let out a breath. We are. Thanks to him. Mira docked her ship with theirs. When the airlocks opened, a woman stepped through. She was tall with short brown hair and a scar across her cheek. Her eyes were kind but sharp. She looked at Kale and smiled. So you are the kid who scared off a fleet. Not bad. Kale smiled back. I had help. Mira nodded to Lena and Alara. And good help too, come on. My ship is not fancy, but it has hot food and real beds. On the skyward, Kale met other humans. Some were pilots, others engineers or medics. They all looked tired but hopeful. One old man gave him a candy bar and said, You remind me of my grandson. Kale ate it slowly, savoring the sweetness. Later in a quiet room, Alara showed him the data crystal they took from the command vessel. It held files on many children like him, all hunted, all hidden, and one message repeated over and over. They are coming for all of us. Kale looked at his mother. What do we do now? We build, Alara said. We gather the lost. We teach them to fight not with weapons but with who they are. Len's voice came from the doorway. And we find others like us, elves, dragons, humans, anyone who believes in choice. Ember nudged Kale's hand. The boy leaned against the dragon and felt peace. He was no longer just a survivor. He was part of something bigger. Mira appeared in the hall. We have a lead. A signal from the outer colonies. Another child like you. Hiding. Kale stood up. Then we go, yes, Alara said. But this time we do not run. We rescue. And as the skyward turned toward the stars, Kale knew his journey was just beginning. He had a family now. And a purpose. And no shadow could take that away.